Our product is a robotic mobility device for people who are in wheelchairs. And you can see the pictures there on the left-hand side. All of these are people who we know. Sophie Morgan, the brand ambassador, is the first photograph. The next one is Jared, who is an employee of ours going upstairs. The next one is Jared doing his work in the factory. And he's able to do that because he's able to stand up and be above the welding. If he's below it, then he gets sparks in his lap. And one of the reasons that I came to this company, I joined about 4 months ago, which is about a few months after the initial public offering last May. I came because I can see what this product does for the users. It is potentially transformative. It doesn't actually enable them to walk again. We've downplayed that public relations imaging. The newspapers like it, but this is a medical product, and I think we need to be very factual about what it does. But it can give very significant health benefits and very significant quality of life benefits, and I hope that you'll be able to see that in the next few minutes. The disclaimer is obviously a part of our presentation, and here is a little video taken from a trial that was done a few weeks ago.
Picky is on his feet again for the first time in 10 years. He was paralysed by a motorbike accident in 2004. Now he's walking around the Aspire Sports Hall in Stanmore with the help of an incredible machine.
When my accident first happened, my mum said to me, "Oh, why don't they invent something like Robocop, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, yeah, you've been on the morphine, you know? So like 11, 12 years later, to now be in a REX, it's just like it's supposed to happen.
He's one of the first people to try out the new suit and is excited by what this technology means for his future and others like him.
Where I'm a producer on the film sets, you know, sometimes I'm having to scream, like, "Hey, where's this one, there's that one." Being from 4'6" in a chair to being back to being 6'1" standing, your presence is different. So it's just different. I'd really love to get into more spinal injury units. That's where we're in Stanmore today, because I was in this hospital for 18 months. I was in hospital for 2 years after my accident, and I was on the unit for here for 18 months. And they literally taught me how to live in a chair and how to, you know, move again. So to be here again in Stanmore doing this in a REX where we can show patients and stuff like that, it's amazing.
There are only 13 of these robotic walkers in the world, each costing up to £95,000. The manufacturers say that the hope is to have them available in rehabilitation centres all across the UK by 2016.
There are a number of university hospitals who tend to be at the forefront of technology, like this one, which is associated with UCL, that will get a REX in quickly. And that's why we are working with Aspire on the launch of an appeal to buy a REX for this spinal cord unit here in the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital.
And as for Picky, I left him in his element as he was trying to master the moonwalk.
So there we are. There's plenty more of those on our YouTube channel, and I'd encourage you to look at that if you'd like to know more. Back to the presentation and the business, because that's what it's all about. We characterize this as a hands-free robotic mobility and exercise system, and there are two purposes for which the REX might be used, and I think that distinction is an important one that I'd like to try and bring out. The first is the professional segment, which is neuro-rehabilitation experts. As you know, neurology is the brain and also the spinal cord, because they're all connected essentially in a single biological system. And you suffer neurological damage if you have a traumatic brain injury, a stroke, or if you have a spinal cord injury. They're all neurological neurological injuries. So the neurological rehabilitation clinics is the part of the hospital that we're particularly interested in. And you'll be familiar with the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital in Stanmore, Stoke Mandeville, and the Robert Jones Hospital in Oswestry in the north of England. The second use for REX is at home. So when we sell a REX for a use in a neuro rehab clinic, it will be used by multiple patients during the day. They will tend to go in, they will stand up, they will be walked around, and they will take exercise, all of which has a good rehabilitation effect. And just standing is extremely important. Patients, or rather users with spinal cord injury, are bunched up all the time, and that's extremely bad for your digestive system, your bowel, your bladder. And the sort of injuries and diseases that we suffer from, those of us who aren't in a wheelchair, are suffered by a much greater degree by people with spinal cord injury. Diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and bowel and bladder problems as well. Just standing has been proved to have significant benefits for people with spinal cord injury. And the exercise, in addition, is important. So that's the first sector. The second segment of the market is the potential to be used at home. And there, the kind of benefits that we're expecting to see of people being able to stand and cook is a very good example. You can cook much more safely with hot stuff if you're able to be totally secure and you don't have to be looking upwards from a wheelchair. So those are the two markets, and I'll come back to that in a minute. We're not just talking about spinal cord injury in the long term. It is an initial focus for the company, and it has been for some time. But spinal cord injured patients are actually not even the largest segment of those who are in wheelchairs. There is stroke, for example, is a significant source of people in wheelchairs, and they often don't come out of the wheelchairs, even though there is a potential for cure. So a complete spinal cord injury is very unlikely to be cured. Actually, it can't be cured. There is no known cure at the moment. Whereas rehabilitation can cause or can be prompted by, stroke can be facilitated by rehabilitation into a complete recovery. The structural, scientific, consistent application of the robotic therapy is attracting a lot of interest. So that's the third area that we're looking at. Muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, stroke, traumatic brain injury. None of those are spinal cord injury, but they're all significant opportunities for us. We are pursuing the concept of robotic-assisted physical therapy. This presentation is in American. We call it physiotherapy. Americans call it physical therapy because I'm going with this presentation to the States in a couple of weeks' time. Robot-assisted surgery has become very significant, particularly in neurological surgery, where even the smallest the smallest surgical tremor, as our previous speaker explained in the field of prostate cancer, where there are a lot of very sensitive structures, a smallest tremor by the surgeon can lead to severing of important nerves, and which is a catastrophe for the patient potentially. So the robotic-assisted surgery dampened down that tremor and has enabled more accurate surgery. That's now a market worth several £billion. We're not in that at all, but what we're attempting to do is use that as an analogy of what we're seeking to do, which is to potentiate much more scientific physiotherapy by the use of robotic technology. Our factory is in New Zealand. It's not my ideal, I must admit, in terms of convenience, but it's where the technology was developed by our brilliant founding engineer, who is still with the company and with a good R&D group, meshing together a number of technologies, electromechanical, software, and using feedback from clinicians as well. So that's an experienced group, and they should stay there. But our commercialization, clinical, marketing activities are led from here in the UK. We have a executive management team and a board with a track record in commercializing medical technology. Again, the fascinating presentation we had before is about drug development. And we are a different kind of business system because we operate in medical products, different regulatory system, different development pathway. Neither one is better than the other, but they are definitely different. We have got reference sites underway in a number of different markets, and that is a vital part of the way that we develop medical products. Here's the management team. I worked for 12 or so years as chief executive of a company called Biocompatible. Some of you may have been in the shares. I find that conversation can go both ways, depending on where you bought and when you sold. But we certainly got out at a good price for our shareholders. We actually developed and sold 3 product lines and eventually exited at a very handsome value. But it was a different management team, so I'm not making any promises, but I have done this kind of work before at any rate. Peter Worrell, our experienced Chief Financial Officer, Richard Little, as I said, our founding inventor, Tracy White leading the operations in New Zealand, and Deborah, an experienced medtech sales and marketing person. So if I go under a bus tonight, there are other people in the team. This is what the market opportunity looks like. I admit it makes me feel a bit queasy talking about a market opportunity when you're talking about people with spinal cord injury, but that's life. 270,000 people are living in the United States with a spinal cord injury, and they are almost without exception in wheelchairs. The degree of injury is more severe as you go up the chart. Paraplegia is obviously 2 limbs, quadriplegia or tetraplegia as it's called in America is 4 limbs. And then you have the distinction between a complete injury where the spinal cord is severed and there is no function and no surviving nerves, or an incomplete injury where the opposite is true and there is some sensation and some functionality. So obviously an incomplete paraplegic is in relative terms better state than a complete tetraplegic. But the lesson from this is that complete tetraplegia, the most severe injury, is the largest segment of the market. And while we have technology that addresses all of the market, as I said earlier, people can go home, cook because their arms are free, the healthcare benefit of continuous exercise for people who have complete tetraplegia, we believe will be very considerable. Our products are approved as safe and effective as by the regulators here in Europe, large parts of Asia, and the United States. In the United States, there is not an approval for home use, but there is approval for use in the professional setting. So we are ready to commercialize, and I'll return to that in a moment. But even though the product is treated by the regulators as safe and effective, as indeed it is, we need to do more clinical work to show that the product actually has a clinical benefit, that the patients not just exercise safely, but they are better off, their health improves as a result of that. And we're just about to initiate our first trial in that respect. We don't need that data to start selling, but we do need that data in order to maximize the opportunity. Commercialization in medical devices is complicated. There are a number of different balls or plates that you need to spin. You need to focus on what indication, i.e. what type of illness you are treating. You need to understand who the customer is. So in terms of indication, I described those earlier. In terms of the location, I also described that earlier, be it the clinic or the home, it makes a big difference. And in particular, and often overlooked, what are we trying to achieve here? Are we trying simply to give the patient some exercise? Are we trying to get them to make a complete recovery? Or are we simply giving them the opportunity to work in the home setting? All of that makes a very big difference for the data that you're trying to assemble. And critically, especially in the United States, who is paying? Is it going to be an insurance company on a personal injury claim because somebody was injured in a car crash? Or is it going to be the NHS? It makes a very big difference. And already we are getting a lot of interest from personal injury lawyers who said that they would very much like to put the REX into a claim against the insurance company, of which, of course, they will get a third of the revenues, but whatever makes the world go round. The bottom left-hand corner shows our competitor. We do not have this market to this concept to ourselves, and their product is less expensive. Because the user is required to steady themselves with crutches. For some people, if you want to go for a long walk at high speed in the country and you have a spinal cord injury, I think that works. I like their technology, I admire what they've done, and I hope they succeed because I think this is a space that will grow if there are more than one supplier there. But on the right-hand side, I think you can see the benefit, you can see of our technology, and you can see when you compare the two that anybody with 4 limbs injured is very unlikely to be able to use that product on the far left. Top right, another competitor, a much more expensive product than ours, is there for a quadriplegic held up in a harness and is walking on a treadmill. Again, good exercise, undoubtedly some therapeutic benefit, but obviously you don't want to have one of those in your home, and it's considerably more expensive. So marketing, we're not offering a miracle cure, as I said. You have to do the hard yards in terms of comparing yourselves in terms of value with the competitors, identifying where we have significant benefits to the customer, and roll it out. I talked about 2 market segments a moment ago. You can see from our imaging and our brochures on the left-hand side, the professional setting. The lady in the white coat is a physiotherapist on T-side. The user there in the wheelchair had not walked for 10 years. His video is on our YouTube channel, and you can see him happily getting into the REX. And the concept there is robot-assisted physiotherapy. On the right-hand side, the brochure that we hand out to personal users has a very different type of slant. This is what they might do with it themselves. On the left-hand side, Jared, one of our employees. We have 2 employees out of 30 with spinal cord injury, and we are committed, as many companies are, but we are particularly committed to employing people with disabilities. Jared there working in his car, leaning over, arms free, and that's what motivates him. On the right-hand side, you may have seen last summer a lot of publicity to Irving, who was able to walk across the dance floor at his daughter's wedding, embrace his daughter, deliver his speech. The psychosocial benefits of interacting with people at eye-to-eye level is extremely important, and it's often what the users talk about. And at the bottom there in the middle, Sophie, who works for us in our PR group, talks about, for her, about the healthcare benefits, which she is particularly keen on, although she also paints. So that's a bit about the positioning. I'll just gallop through to the end. We get lots of publicity because it is an exciting product, and we feel very motivated by that. And I hope you, for those of you who wish to know more and get involved with the company, I hope you feel that level of motivation as well. And the publicity is good and valuable, but we use it in order to attract distribution partners and attract personal users as well. There's our factory in New Zealand. We have to operate under GMP ISO 13485 systems, as all healthcare companies do. We're bringing our product costs down, and I hope our 3rd generation product might make it a mass market opportunity. So the 1st generation product is the one you've seen. We'll be able to bring down the price quite a lot and establish respectable margins, but I don't think it's till our 3rd generation product that will truly make it a mass market product in the range of £20,000 to £30,000, as opposed to the current list of around 80. We have partnerships and grants from the University of Auckland and the New Zealand government. So the financial position, we IPO'd last year at around a price of £1.80. I think that we got a little over-enthusiastic about some of the communications. When I joined the company, it was clear to me that we weren't going to make the sales number that the market had penciled in. So we moved to correct that quite quickly. The market price then fell to 70p, and that's where we are, and you can see that from the charts yourself. So our market cap is now around £10 million. We're burning around 4, and we have around £4 million. So, you know, we're all adults here. This is not for widows and orphans. I haven't, in case anybody was thinking of asking, put my entire pension pot into this stock. But I have invested in it, and I will invest more. I believe in the technology. And we are getting very good interest from distribution partners, in particular, as we commercialize. We announced one partnership in Hong Kong a couple of weeks ago. We've got more to come in continental Europe, and we're already engaged in discussions with potential partners in China and the United States. So I absolutely believe that we can deliver commercially, scientifically, and clinically, and create significant value for our shareholders. We are focused on sales. I can't make forward-looking statements personally, but Edison Investment, we have commissioned to write up an analytical report about the company, and they have forecasts there that you can download from the Edison website. And we're keen to spend more time with shares as well, communicating the story. But here are some milestones. It's not just about the sales numbers that we've committed to, but it's also about a series of other activities that we have to put together in order to drive the value, because that's what we're committed to do. And the clinical data to show that there is a healthcare benefit in using the REX, I think, is the single biggest transformative event. So this is what we're about. To recap, it's about the technology, more support for people with a higher level injury, in particular hands-free mobility, the focus on the not only on the professional segment, the neurological physiotherapist, but also the potential in the personal and home market, and excellent execution. In the end, this is a company, and we need to sell, we need to market, we need to manufacture, and then we need to develop the next generation product. We need to build evidence, we need to build a global distribution network, we need to have reference centers, the US will be critical. All those things are underway, and I look forward to coming here again in future events and telling you about our progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions, please? I'll just start things off then. You said at the moment the unit price, was it 90,000 sterling or dollars? Or?
The film said £95,000. We managed to do the first phase of a reduction in our manufacturing costs, and we've passed most of that on to our customers. So where we sell direct, the list price, including in the UK, is £80,000.
Okay, so at the moment you're selling, just to clarify, you sell at 80,000 and the cost is around 90.
No.
Sorry, I just really want to make it very, very clear. So just one more time for me. I'm clearly not very
I didn't say anything about the cost.
Okay.
What I talked about was the price.
Okay.
So the price is 80.
Yeah.
I can talk about cost of goods, but that's kind of confusing. Yeah. And the cost of goods will come down a lot as volume increases.
Super. Okay.
We're targeting a gross margin of around 60% as our first stop, and then we'd like to get up to pharma margins of closer to 70.
Okay. And for each individual customer, for direct sales, I was wondering about the servicing and the frequency of servicing. Do they need a lot, or do you need staff out in the field to keep the units operational? Is there a recurring revenue on service contract that you'd either be charging individuals or whoever the buyer might be?
We have service engineers who will field service the product, which is very common for machinery and in particular in the medical device industry. The product comes with a 1-year guarantee, and we sell an additional 3 years of extended warranty with a revenue model.
Okay. And I think we had a question just here.
I can hear you from here, I feel sure, but...
Do you have any other products, or is just the one product? Or are you working on other products?
We just have this product. I think that there's plenty to do here in commercializing this, and I feel that we will be more likely to be successful if we focus.
Okay. And can I know how much was the turnover last year, sales?
0.
Okay.
Ish. Because the product hadn't been launched.
Okay, so it's being launched now.
Actually, no, it's not true to say it was 0. It'll be a little more than 0,
And
but
the
not much.
capital in the business is how
Sorry?
much? Other than IPO, is there any other equity from the promoters, or
Is there any other?
other equity in the business?
Equity?
Yeah.
So if you mean is there any other asset value, it's mainly in the intellectual property, but we hold stock of our robots, work in progress, raw materials, and we have some fixed assets, but not many. But this is not an asset play.
Right. Okay.
And we have the cash, of course. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And just on the device, can it be used by people who have lost part of a limb or lost an entire leg?
It hasn't been yet. So because we tend to think about people with serious disabilities, sometimes, some of us would, all in one group, there is a tendency to think that amputees in a wheelchair have the same injury as people with a spinal cord injury, which they don't. So in order to get an amputee in, and the amputee would have no reason particularly to go into a REX, because with a prosthetic limb they would be able to walk anyway. But if they were an amputee with a spinal cord injury, which unfortunately can happen with blast injury, yes, we believe that they can, but we simply haven't had anybody in a REX who has had an amputation. It just changes the balance slightly because you need to be extremely, I mean, we build this product so that nobody will ever fall over for obvious reasons. So you lose a bit of weight and you lose a bit of balance, we'd have to recalibrate, but we believe that we could have amputees in a REX.
And it was kind of blast injuries and I guess the military market that I was thinking of. Clearly quite a lot of profile and there has been about military injuries or injuries incurred by people in operations. Do the military, they have money for this, for treatment now? And there was a lot of accusations in previous years, the start of the Help the Heroes charity, that the military was not looking after people in the UK. Has that changed? And what's the situation like in America for the military market?
We're talking to the military both here in the UK and in the US. I'll be at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham tomorrow, which is the closest affiliate NHS hospital to Headley Court. And they are interested in what we have to offer, and we'd expect to start work with them in the next few months. They do have the money, but they are, just because they have the money doesn't mean to say they're not still extremely rigorous about what exactly is the benefit.
A question at the back?
For centres that take a REX machine, do you think people, or do you need to give training to staff, and how long is that likely to take?
Yeah, we do, and it tends to take about 2 days to train a physiotherapist, and we are working with them on making that part of their continuous medical education, which is an important incentive. I've worked with quite a lot of other medical products, and it's very common to have to take people off-site in order to train them, and I don't see that as an impediment to growth.
Question over here?
Sorry. If I'm not mistaken, you're producing or manufacturing these in New Zealand, right?
Yes.
How many units can you produce if you have a substantial contract offline, or how does that work out?
At the moment, well, very roughly, and these are numbers from Edison, not from us for obvious reasons because they're forward-looking, but Edison's number would imply about 10 units to be sold this year, 10, 12, 13. Right. And we have a production budget of around 20. So I think we'd say that's our current capacity. If somebody gave me an order tomorrow for 100, then I'd get very busy hiring people. But it is not capital intensive. What we're largely doing is bolting together thousands of components. So if you hire the labour reasonably quickly, then you can scale up fast. That's very different to the printing industry, which I used to work in, where the lead time on a new printing press would be months, and there's nothing you can do about it.
A question here?
I've seen a number of things on television showing humanoid robots actually moving about. Is there any relationship between your technology and the sort of technology that one sees demonstrated there?
Yes, there are robots and robots, aren't there? Those, we had those ones doing welding a long time ago in the car industry. I mean, I'm not even sure that this is particularly robotic because, in a sense, there is a joystick and we are steering, the user is steering it. But it has a robotic kind of movement and it is providing significant functionality automatically. So I think it's convenient to call it a robot. I don't think it has anything in common with a humanoid, though, because a humanoid is not a medical product. A humanoid may be very useful in bringing us our gin and tonic, as I understand it, but for most of us, that's not a medical requirement yet.
Yes, I may have missed that, but what's the market size and how long are you envisage a person to use a particular device before you buy a new one or whatever?
We don't know, to be perfectly truthful. We believe that it would last 5 years, but until we've had one with continuous use for 5 years, we don't really know. Usually I find engineers tend to underestimate the longevity of their product rather than overestimate it. But at the moment we tell people it would last 5 years. In terms of the market size, I mean, 250,000 spinal cord injured patients in the US alone, and you could double that for the worldwide market, even in the developed world, at the current market price of £100,000 per unit, rounded up to make the arithmetic easier, is a market worth several billion. So I don't think the problem is the total market size. The problem is just the speed of adoption and what it takes to get the adoption.
Any other questions, please?
Can I just ask how the device is powered?
It's got a battery that sits in the back. The battery life is about 2 hours, and it takes about an hour to recharge it. And the unit comes with 2 batteries.
Can a patient use the device independently if they are living independently, or do they need help to get into it or to use it?
The training that they get will involve an assessment of their ability to move around at home safely. So in principle, yes, they can operate it independently. People in wheelchairs are very used to transferring out of their wheelchair onto a chair, and that's all that's required. You didn't see the Rex sitting down, I don't think. You did at the beginning of the video. So the Rex can sit down, you can transfer by yourself, you can strap yourself up by yourself, and you can live by yourself. But we would not encourage people to do that until they've got used to it, because safety is critical.
And but for empowering people, for giving them that the exercise at home, if someone lives by themselves or in some sort of accommodation, and it's quite an important aspect of it.
Yes. Yeah. No, there is no reason in principle why it shouldn't be used by somebody living at home.
Any other questions?
One final one on market size. You mentioned 270,000 people who could benefit from Rex in the USA. I wonder how many of that 270,000 could easily afford 100,000 if they wanted one today. I suspect it's at least 1%, which would give you a huge turnover.
Yes, thank you very much.
On that note, I think we are out of time for this evening. So, Crispin, thank you very much indeed. It's fantastic.